Hey class, today what we're going to do is we're going to graph our some quadratics. So what we're going to do is you need to grab your calculator. Alright, so in order to graph this equation, what we're first going to do is go to y equals. Okay, so y equals is up here, and you're going to go ahead and put in your equation. So make sure that you use your variable button right here to use for your x's so that it if you do the alpha and then pick a letter, it might have a number stored in there, and then what that would do is mess up your whole equation. So you don't want to do that. Make sure you choose the variable button up there. Alright, so once you do that, I would make sure that you go to zoom, and then I would choose 6, just to make we're going to standardize the window. If you notice, we get this graph. Alright, so my graph points down. What I want to do is make sure that I graph it properly on there. A lot of people misinterpret the windows rectangular, so some things might mess up. So what I would do is I would go to second, blue button, and then graph, and that's going to give you the table. And what I would do is I would go and plot some points from this table. So I see that 0, -1 is on my graph, so I'm going to go 0, -1. I also see that -1, -1 is on my graph. I see that -2, -5, so -2, -5, 1, -5, so all those are on my graph, and so I make sure that all my points go through there, and it looks like that. So if you notice on my graph, it points down, so that means it goes on forever in that direction. So I want to pick out whether we have a maximum or a minimum point, and that means that I'm going to have a max point there, because I have the tallest point is here, it can't go any higher than that, so that's the maximum point. Alright, so what we want to do next is pick out the vertex. The calculator will do all of this for us. Now there is a way to do it by hand, and you would have to take the x value equals the opposite of b over 2a. You would then pick out a, which is -2, b, which is -2, sub those in, so you get negative of -2 over 2 times -2. So all of that together, the x portion would be 1/2. And then we'd have to sub that into this to get the y. So it's a lot of work to do it by hand. Your calculator does it really easily. Alright, so you're going to go back to graph, okay, and we're going to choose the second trace function. So second trace, up there it says calc, and this is where we're going to find all of this information for our graph. So if you remember, we said there was a maximum. You notice there is a maximum button on here, so we're going to choose number 4. Now it's going to ask you a few questions. The first one says left bound, so that means I need to go to the left of the vertex. So you can pick any point over here to the left. It does not matter where, it does not matter how far. I would just make sure you go past the vertex. So I'm going to hit there. You notice there's a little arrow popped up at the top saying that it's going to look the other way. Then it says right bound, so we're going to go to the right of my vertex. Any point over there is fine. Hit enter, guess. You can go guess wherever you think the vertex is. Hit enter, and then it gives us our point. So it gave us that I got -0.5. It also gave us a few extra zeros there. We can just round. So our maximum point here, our vertex, is -0.5, comma, -0.5. So right here at -1/2, -1/2, that's my vertex. Alright, now once you get your vertex, axis of symmetry is super easy to find. So axis of symmetry is this vertical line that goes right through the middle of my parabola. And if you remember, symmetry means it's going to fold in half on itself, and it looks the same on either side. So my axis of symmetry is that vertical line, so I know that goes through x equals -0.5. So I've got that. Then I'm going to graph my x-intercepts. Now, in order to find the x-intercepts, I would go to second calc. I'm going to go to zeros. It does the same thing. It has left bound, right bound, and then guess. But the thing about this, it never crosses the x-axis. So I would do none for that. And then my y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So in my second trace function, what I can do is I can go to value. So value picks out x values. So I'm going to say my x, it asks a question. And so remember the y-intercept is where my x is equal to 0. So I plug in x equals 0, hit enter, and it will tell me what my y-intercept is. So my y-intercept is at -1, which we saw from our table as well. So got 0, -1. So that's how we identify all those things on our graph. So it definitely helps to have the calculator. Here for my x plus 4, or x squared plus 4, if I were to graph that, I know it goes up to 4. If you were to do all this in the calculator just like we just did, you would see the same points that I'm putting in, and it looks just like that. So this one has a minimum point because it opens up, so that means it has a minimum point. It doesn't go below this point. My vertex, if you were to do what we just did, vertex left bound, right bound, you'll find that my vertex is 0, 4. My axis of symmetry, remember, is my x version of this, so I'm going to say x equals 0. That's that vertical line that goes right through here. My x-intercepts, you notice, also doesn't go through the x-axis. So that is a none. And then my y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. I also, in this case, is the vertex, but it doesn't always work out that way. And that is graphing quadratics.